Our second presenter is Arlene Gallagher. We've only just recently linked in with Arlene. I suppose when we were looking at the day, we thought we've got a lot about homework, and what we wanted to do is, I suppose, as parents, you're all sitting here coming from different schools with very different capacities in your schools, with very different capacities individually as parents in making change in your school. Some people will be coming from parents' associations, some people might come from really engaged schools where the principal and the parents are working very well together, and then some people will be coming from very different situations. So we wanted to close the day before the Innovation Award, which we've still got coming for everybody at the front rows who are eagerly awaiting. But we wanted to close the day in terms of the speakers with something, I suppose, that regardless of what's happening at school level, is there something you can do at home that can help engage? And because sometimes it can be very difficult for parents to keep thinking of ideas, a bit like it's very difficult for teachers to keep thinking of ideas. And one of the things that's very topical at the moment is STEM and STEM subjects. And, you know, we're constantly hearing about the fact that this is going to be so important for children in the future to engage with STEM. We're hearing that girls don't engage as much as boys. We're hearing all the challenges. And we also know we live in a country where a lot of the technology companies are deciding to reside. So it raises lots of challenges. So we thought, well, maybe take a subject like STEM and see how that can connect with home learning. And Arlene's very gratefully accepted the invitation to come and speak to you. So I'll hand over to Arlene. Thank you.
Thank you. So, good afternoon, but I have to declare two things. Firstly, I'm not a teacher and I'm not a parent, right? So this is not my typical setting, I guess, if you wish, but I'm an academic in Trinity College, so I'm a lecturer and I work with third level students. I also have a social enterprise myself, which is called Trinity Walton Club, with this W logo here, which predominantly works with second level students. Okay, but I've learned a thing or two with working with that audience, and I'm hopefully going to share some insights with you on that. To begin, there's a really, really nice, interesting piece of research that originated by social scientists actually in the 60s, so it's around quite a long time. But the question was posed to 8-year-olds, what does a scientist look like? And I'm going to ask you that question. So in your minds, if you could please think of what is that image that pops into your mind. Take 10 seconds. Okay, did it look something like this? So in fact, the overwhelming research in the 60s, 70s indicated that 1%, or the majority of the output from the young people look like this. Unfortunately, it's not much better in 2019 when only three young people in a large group, 3% of young people in a large group would draw a female. Okay, so we still have a number of stereotypes to address and challenge. I'm a physicist. Would you have thought I was a physicist? Yes. Wonderful. I love to hear yes. I actually, for a long, long time, I didn't tell people I was a physicist because of the reaction I would get, which was very wrong. Now I wear that badge with pride. But actually, my own path into science was very, very fortuitous, really, total external factors, and I'll tell you about them in a moment. But I also have this other philosophy, if you wish, and it's not exclusively mine, but I independently thought this up, and other people share this view as well, that all people, everybody in this room, including all of your children and all of your children's friends and all of the community of young people, are natural-born scientists. So this innate sense of wonder and curiosity is the key vital characteristic of a good scientist, if you wish. And if you're fortunate enough to maintain that level of interest and curiosity about the world around you, you might choose to pursue a career or further education in an area of science. Unlike them, young children, I mean, I was like that, but I certainly by age 15 had fallen out of love with the topic of science. In fact, between the ages of maybe, I don't know when, maybe 4, say, up to age 15, I certainly didn't associate with that earlier image I've shown you. I didn't want to look like that. I had no aspirations to maybe fit in with other people who looked like that. And they were definitely factors that informed my aspirations and certainly kept me out of the world of science. But then in junior cert, I met science for the very, very first time, actually in third year of junior science. And it was because I had moved house, and we moved over from the north side of Dublin to the west of Dublin. And in the new school, it was policy that all junior cycle students study science. But in the first school I was in, that wasn't the case, so I had home ec. But this was my first meeting of science. You might be familiar with such a setting. Can I ask, are we any scientists, technologists, engineers, or mathematicians in the room? Okay, wonderful. Yeah, okay, perhaps about 30%. But this was my understanding of what science was, and I guess it was the environment that science happened. Okay, and if you weren't in an environment like that, science didn't happen. How wrong I was, because what I had to learn very, very quickly was that science is happening everywhere, all around me in the world, every single second. And whether it was, I'm not quite sure what actually directly influenced this, but I knew I had to sit a junior certificate examination, and I was quite a studious young individual, so it was important to me that I did well in it. So actually what I had to kind of, for myself, recognise was that, yes, it was important to understand the facts and figures and data and experiments and the formulae, but really for me, success came, and the real love for science came when I took my head out of the book and really understood that it's something that's not finished, it's very much evolving, it's very dynamic, and guess what? There's still so much more to discover. So when you are 15 and suddenly you actually my world changed, really. Sounds a bit dramatic now, but I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that nobody had shared this with me. I have no scientist in my family. I certainly didn't have any friends who had an interest in science. I was that typical girly girl, loved Barbie and all of those girly connotations. So science for me seemed like more of a masculine field, and it had certainly nobody that I wanted to aspire to be like. You know, that certainly wasn't anything visible that I could engage with. So really, I actually went on to choose physics for Leaving Cert, physics degree, physics PhD, physics postdoctoral research fellow, and I'm a professor in physics now in Trinity College. And really at age 15, I had wrote off science and how my life could have been drastically different. But when I got to university, science again totally changed. What I had, performed at Leaving Cert, even degree level physics is somewhat limited. But when I ended up doing my own PhD, I worked in a field of nanoscience. So really teeny tiny materials, about 100,000 times smaller than a single strand of hair. So it's working very cutting edge technology to enable me to get into that tiny world. And in 2010, I worked on a piece of research, and it made me really, consider what's science all about. And that was something that I'm going to share hopefully with you in a moment. But before I do that, I hope most of you recall these electronic items. Some of you will have had some. Certainly the mobile phone there is lovely and practical. But we all know now that all of that wonderful technology, and it was wonderful, each of those items is spectacular, was condensed into this handheld pocket device that I'm sure 90% of you in the room have. And the advances in technology that took was phenomenal. And the community of people from all over the world, and the thinkers and the problem solvers and the innovators that had to come together to compact all of that technology was very just incredible to me personally. And then, as I was saying, as a nanomaterial scientist, in 2010, I was working on a piece of research to enable the next generation of electronics. So back in 2010, anybody like to stab a guess at what they proposed the next generation of electronics might be or look like? Huh? Bio. Okay, interesting. Yeah, anybody else? Go big, anybody, come on. AI? Well, nobody is wrong, technically, right? IoT is a big domain, absolutely. But I was thinking more practically around how will devices look? Well, actually, they're going to be flexible. So imagine a mobile phone that you could drop and the screen wouldn't break. Wouldn't that be nice? Or my computer that could be rolled up and put in my pocket and taken back out later. Or your child's 10 school books that they carry, maybe that's not the case anymore, could be compacted into one sheet, one flexible piece of transparent electrode that could actually change constantly as whatever is needed to be viewed. So this was, for me, just amazing. And I worked on this back in 2010. So it hasn't obviously met the marketplace. We're starting to see curved electronics a little bit more. And the next kind of wave of activity that's happening is related to flexible batteries. And nanomaterials are enabling batteries to not only be flexible, but to store more energy and to give it out over longer periods of time. So again, that idea of your iPhone, where you need to only perhaps charge it once a month. And these are the exciting concepts that I was just so impressed with the domain of nanoscience that that's why I chose my research to actually pursue. So there's a few things I've definitely learned on that journey, and I hope I just kind of excited some of you with some very, very surface level ideas that maybe you can look into further, but certainly that we've only actually scratched the surface. You know, what we know is that little piece at the top, and we need more bright, brilliant people to keep asking why, and to go back to that original sense of curiosity and that need to understand how it all works. Because there's so much more we have to discover. Yes, AI has come up, absolutely. Technology has increased the pace of change in society drastically. And guess what? It'll never happen so slowly again. And that's frightening and that's exciting. And it really just depends on how your mindset to this, the world of tech and how it's going to invade our homes and our workplaces, and how it's going to make certain jobs redundant. For example, in 20 years' time, there will be no truck drivers in the US. All the trucks will be autonomous. That's scary. I mean, a whole workforce has been annihilated by technology. But nonetheless, there's also wonderful, exciting prospects that the world of augmented reality, virtual reality, artificial intelligence hold, and there's really, really exciting stuff happening. Does anybody recognize this picture? You do? What is it? It's from the ad. Wonderful. Have any of you seen the Vodafone ad? I have it. So just in case, I'm going to click on this. It should bring me to Facebook, and we're going to watch this ad together. Yeah? It's resonating now.
How many moons does Jupiter have?
Well, Jupiter is one of the moonier of the planets. Let's see, there's Proton, Crouton, Oregano, Anagram. 79.
You can't know everything, but with Vodafone Gigabit Broadband, you'll be up to speed with whatever the future throws at you.
Transform your home today for €30 for the first 6 months. Search Vodafone Gigabit Broadband.
But I absolutely sympathise with that poor father who's doing his best for his young daughter. And I'm just going to, reopen where I was. And unfortunately, he has seen this, sad face of his daughter. And she sniffed a rat. She knows there's something up. She doesn't trust him anymore based on his anagram, oregano comments. Nobody wants their child to be disappointed in them, right? Absolutely not. I'm not proposing that. But I'm certainly, I laugh at this ad because actually what we should be doing is saying, actually, I haven't a clue. Let's go find out together. right? And I have some tips around that in a moment. But just when you see that ad, please do think of this moment and hopefully some stuff I'm going to say in a few moments. There's really still 5 huge misconceptions around the world of science, technology, engineering and maths. And I go around Ireland speaking to second level students. And I still share these 5 misconceptions. I share them with everybody. It doesn't matter if you're a student, if you're a parent, if you're a teacher, if you're a professional, even in STEM, these still stand and they're very well understood and analysed. So I'm going to share them with you. We've kind of touched this one, but can I get a show of hands who, nobody will put up their hand for this one, but you know, science, technology, engineering and maths, the acronym STEM for science, tech, engine, maths, STEM is for boys. Anybody want to put their hand up with that belief? No, okay. Huh? This is the misconception. Yeah, it's not, absolutely not. Yeah, and would you believe I have been sharing these misconceptions maybe 8 years now in my school visits, and I've noticed a remarkable shift in the schools I attend where they say, somewhat kind of, even young females and young males will say, yeah, it kind of still is. These are junior cycle students, Irish junior cycle students who say, yeah, it is, still. But as I said, that shift I've seen a changing tide on that front. So that's a hopeful one, right? So we're going to debunk that. We know that that's not true. Here's another one. Science, tech, engine, maths subjects typically are more difficult than other subjects. Can I get a show of hands who believes that's true? Nice and high. No shaming here. Just anybody, please be honest. Okay, nearly a good third of the room believe that that's true. Okay, I'm going to make a bold statement on this. It is so much easier for your child to get an A in a subject like maths or science than a subject like English or French. Purely because of the very nature of the subject. It is hugely subjective. There is an answer a lot of the time at second level. I'm speaking obviously about the second level system, but I mean, absolutely, if the learner has an innate interest or appetite for a certain discipline, they should always gravitate to those. I'm not arguing that, but I do believe that this misconception is slightly, it's weighed heavier that people believe this intuitively. They believe that suddenly if I put on a white coat, I'm more intelligent than someone that doesn't have a white coat on. And that's not true. That's absolutely not true. So I want to hopefully debunk that one. Would anybody like to challenge that one further? And there is time at the end, but please remember, if you disagree strongly with that, do let me know. Here's another one, that science, technology, engineering and maths disciplines and subjects are just not interesting to girls. What do we think? Hands up if you think that's true. Maybe you have a daughter that you'd like to make reference to and think, maybe she's just not interested in that. Okay, so nobody on this one. There was a wonderful piece of research done in Ireland only about 2 years ago now, where 85% of the young females, I think it was over a population of about 1,000 young females, said totally denied this. No way. Science is absolutely, very interesting to girls. But yet, where are they? Show me the females in university studying areas like physics. We're looking at about 11% female representation. We're looking at about 17% in chemistry. We're looking at about 50% in biology, perhaps even more, a little bit higher. And show me, I work in the School of Physics in Trinity College, there are 3 female academics in a community of 30. And unfortunately, I'm hoping this is a shifting tide. But why aren't they following through if this is a domain that they're interested in? We don't see them. There is an intuitive kind of piece of understanding around females cannot be what they cannot see. So they do not aspire to be in the world of science, technology, engineering and maths because they don't see other females choosing it. And the knock-on effect on that has on them fitting into that type of world is keeping them out. So these are just misconceptions I'm hoping to challenge. Here's another one. You have to be really good at maths to do science or technology. So hands up if you believe through. We've got some people in the room straight away. Absolutely. I'm hoping you're also thinking of yourselves in this context, right? So you perhaps have not enjoyed science because you didn't feel maybe you had the tools or the maths. And I'm delighted to see 2 young people in the audience over here as well who are contributing. Thank you for your input. So you agree that you have to be good. You have to be good at maths to do science, do you? Do you think? You don't think so, but what does your sister think? You don't think so? Oh, I thought your hand was up, excuse me. So here's the thing. Maths becomes a language in science, coding, technology, engineering. It is like how you would express a relationship between 2 things, as opposed to saying Newton's, I'm going to put myself in the spot here, Newton's second law, F is equal to ma. The acceleration is directly proportional to the force I apply and indirectly proportional to the mass of the object. F is equal to ma. I've said the exact same thing, one in a formulaic mathematical representation and the other one using words. So I'm not saying that you don't have to have a fundamental, at least an appreciation that maths is something that is worth having interest in. Or not, maybe interest is a strong word. Maybe you have to have basic tools to engage with. Okay, so they should be, of course, being developed all throughout your life, whether it's calculating or dividing a bill up or helping your parents at the till to actually calculate what do you really have to owe them for the ice cream you picked. Whatever it looks like, maths should be embedded into our everyday living. And maths and science and technology is just a larger extension of that. So even though I was personally good at maths in school, when I used maths in the world of science, it came alive. It was the application of maths. It wasn't just this pure abstract concepts over here, sitting over here. And I appreciate there have been significant reforms with the project maths. Having said that, at university, we're not seeing those students have come through the entire system and they are now entering university and we're not seeing the basic math level rise. So that's a cause for concern around how the new reforms around maths have been happening. But aside from that, maths, although you might not have to be that A student in maths, certainly when you get into the world of science, maths is a whole new, comes to life on its own. So excluding yourself or your child from the world of maths, or from the world of science, because your fear of not having the right mathematical abilities, please don't do that. Please give yourself and your child the opportunity to actually play with science and see how things relate, and the maths just will fall out, I believe. I'm hoping you have that eureka moment. Finally, when you study a STEM subject, so let's say your child chose science for junior cert, and I think most schools, I think in Dublin 90% of the schools actually, or 90% of the students, junior cycle students take up science, so it's quite a popular subject at junior cycle. But at senior cycle it drops right down because it splits physics, chemistry, biology. And if your child was to choose and to stay on a path of curiosity and nosiness and keep in the world of science, that if they studied a STEM subject at Leaving Cert and they went on to study it at college, that they're limited, that their career choices would be limited. Who thinks this one might be true? Okay, good. Absolutely. What I would strongly advocate for is a reform around how we think about these disciplines at university. They are building skill sets and competencies and abilities in young people that are making them agile and adaptable and flexible and highly sought after in the workforce. So actually, they have options. Their children that study these subjects at university come out with plenty of options and high-paying careers. So I briefly alluded to it, but this is the social enterprise, this youth enrichment program I've developed in Trinity back in 2014. So we've worked with about 1,500 young people over the last 5 years, and as I was trying to explain, we've learned a lot about how their preconceptions and misconceptions about what science is, even though these young people have self-selected to be part of a STEM club at the university. They still had limited outlooks on what science, technology and engineering and maths means. So like you were saying, Martin, which and I strongly agree with, the shift away from information and knowledge into now building skills and in the psychomotor domain, and also building attributes and actual identities, that whole affective domain where they're building their identity around who they are. That's what we're cultivating in this type of learning environment. So it's a non-formal space, so we don't have any state examinations. The students don't get homework. You'll be delighted to hear, Martin. I mean, to be great at anything requires dedicated, deliberate practice. And these young people, without absolutely we encourage, but we don't force or insist, they will go teach themselves whatever they need to know to do the project, because there's that internal motivation and interest. And that's what we, as a non-formal youth enrichment program in the university, want to tap into. Interest, curiosity. And we want to ignite that curiosity. We want to give them space, time, and stimulus to actually be in a safe environment where they can be supported to reach their potential. And I think that's, a resounding, that's something that every teacher, I think, in the country would dream of. Having the flexibility and the unshackling from the, even the curriculum or the state examinations, to just go off topic, to just find these beautiful teaching moments that are actually originate from curiosity and interest. And that's what this environment is doing. It's also 50-50 gender balanced, so that's I'm a big advocate for females in STEM, if you haven't picked up on that, so that's something that I try to get out and communicate. And what we're doing is bringing these wonderful, cool, highly accomplished and just passionate, interested young people who happen to have an interest in science together. And the power of community is transforming that individual interest into something that they're becoming more. These young people, most of them now, are going on to they're doing their Leaving Cert actually at the minute, so they'll be choosing what they're going to do next, and we're going to try and track that and understand where they go and what they do. So some top tips, I think, to try and just share some of my learnings from working with this community of, actually, these are engaged young people. These are people who really like science, but it's helped me to understand where the misconceptions are. So the first one is, we don't necessarily do this enough, but embrace that sense of curiosity. And really, it's frustrating. I have nieces and nephews and they keep saying, but why? But why? But why? But why? And even after that fifth why, I try to stay patient and I say, okay, I'm not giving the answer necessarily. I try to turn that back around on my niece and say, why do you think? Where would you find that out? Try to just encourage that sense of nosiness and welcome that, and try to maybe, as I say, embrace as best you can. I appreciate everybody is doing the best they can on this front, but to really try to make that extra effort to encourage that, even through asking probing questions yourself, but certainly valuing it from the young person. It's very, very powerful. This is something that even amongst the second level community that I work with and the third level community, and by the way, by the time they've come to university, I've first year university students, the curiosity's been sucked out of them. The criticality is only hopefully by the 4th year of their degree, they're becoming more critical thinkers. But they will never challenge Professor Gallagher. She will stand there and they will accept what I say. And I'm waiting for the students to just intellectually spar with me and say, you know what, I don't believe you. Can you imagine ever saying that to a professor? And nor would I have ever said that to an academic. I still wouldn't, my colleagues, I wouldn't. But still, it's something that we need to be aware of, that actually having that sense of, don't believe everything you hear. Don't trust every website you land on. Having that more critical awareness to actually kind of say, I'm going to try prove this for myself. I'm going to try test this one. I'm going to talk to more than one person about it. I'm going to find multiple sources that are creditable to actually validate whatever it is the discovery is. Promoting autonomy. So that's something we strongly advocate for at Trinity Walton Club. It's this sense that the learner has to sit in the driving seat of their own education. And I believe the sooner we do that, the absolute better. Don't wait on the teacher to go to the next page in the book. Don't wait on anybody to say, that's in 6th class, you won't need to know that now. Actually encourage reading around the topic, reading off topic, just going towards, and by the way, these are not just exclusive for science, technology, engineering and maths. These are just tips that I've certainly kind of become more aware that we need to find spaces that will allow young people to do this and support them to do these things, and to actually put not only just a support system, but kind of a safe space to enable these things to become daily practice. Because Monday to Friday, typically not. But on Saturday, when they come into the university, these are the cornerstones of what our learning environments are trying to embrace. And I'd like to share them with you as parents. The 4th tip or trick, as you wish, is about this shift away from the answer or the solution or, getting the right output. It's the process. And that takes a long time. I was explaining to Anya as well, I have had a student with me for 4 years on my Trinity Walton Club programme. And one of the very first questions that they would have met was, how many bricks did it take to build Trinity College Dublin? And I've had the variety of answers from somebody might say, insufficient information. How can I answer this question? I'll have another student sit down and say, well, maybe there's 50 buildings. Maybe a building is approximately, and they'll calculate a volume of a building. And you can see the thinking process and the breakdown of such a complex problem. I couldn't care how many bricks it took to build Trinity College. But what I do care is that they have that, I guess, that initial or that instinct to try and break it down and to solve it and to try to get the closest you can to the correct answer if you wish. But I don't care what that answer is. And I make them aware of that. But I was saying to Anya, I had a student with me for 4 years, and he came back as a bit of a kind of a leader, like a learning assist. I loved you do learning assists as well. But when they're very close in age, you've got this very powerful opportunity for students who are only a year in the difference to be very powerful role models for the junior person. But also they'll speak a language to each other that I cannot communicate. They will explain things to one another that I will not be able to communicate. So we're doing a lot more of this. We're bringing the more senior alphas back in with the junior alphas. But the point was that, this particular young person who's on the program for 4 years was coming back as a learning assistant. And, he's working with these 13-year-olds and they tried to solve that problem. And he did it wonderful work working with the team. But later that night he came back and said, Arlene, what's the answer? Well, I thought I had failed this poor student. For me, that was such a deflating moment, because I think it's so important that we take that shift away from the right answer to just becoming more passionate about the process of solving things or experimenting with things and going around in that kind of self-perpetuating iteration, if you wish, if it's type of a circle that you just keep being enriched by the process. Exams want answers. I recognise that. But we need to also allow time for openness and open-endedness and just focusing on the process. So do consider that one. And then finally, and this is again driven by the need for that A subject. How am I doing on you? You've got about 8 minutes. 8 minutes, perfect. I think I'm nearly finished. But that sense of, if I don't get the wrong answer, I've failed. I'm not good at this. I cannot do this. No. We need to turn that on itself into, well, why? What is the right, maybe not even what is the right answer. If we know we're wrong, why are we wrong? Where did the mistake come from? What can we learn from that mistake? And embracing that kind of failure, if you wish, and turning it completely as an opportunity to grow more and to learn more. And that's, again, a vital cornerstone in the learning environment we're promoting. So how Anya and I guess, no, I suppose you reached out first, Anya, but it turned into a nice synergy, actually. So I'm really passionate about some of the stuff I've been learning from the NPC, and we want to continue on and do more. But in Science Week, most of you are familiar with this. This is a national state-funded Science Foundation Ireland campaign where they fund a number of activities across the country to actually engage the public and the broad public in science in some fashion. This November, we at Trinity Walton Club are hoping to host a bit of an open house exclusively for parents, one parent in fact, with a 8 to 13-year-old, to come on campus and to actually work with the young teenagers that I have in at Trinity Walton Club. The theme of the day will be climate change, so something that young people are very, very passionate about, and they'll get their teeth into some inquiry activities in science. And we'll be sharing some information through Anya to the NPC network about this upcoming event, not until November. So that's something just to pencil in for the diary, for the Saturday, the 17th in particular. And then finally, I think this beautiful quote by W.B. Yeats actually just captures the whole essence of what everybody, because it's all about lifelong learning and having opportunities to learn from everything, that it's not about pouring information into somebody's head or by having the correct information to pour into somebody's head. That's not what it's about. It's about lighting the fire in the student themselves to go find it out. And I hope I've tried to stress that throughout, but I'm really excited to engage in some of the questions, and I'm very happy to talk more to anybody who'd like to chat. Thank you very much.